Hi everyone, and welcome to Creative Chelsey. If you like this video, please let me know by giving it a thumbs up or commenting below. If you want to see more of my videos, press the subscribe button and click on the bell for notifications. If you need any Stampin' Up! Products, such as the new Stampin' Cut and Emboss Machine, you can visit my online store and the link is in the description box below. When you purchase Stampin' Up! Products through me, you can earn free products. Check out my current customer appreciation products on my blog, and the link is listed below in the description box. So today I'd like to share with you the new Stampin' Cut and Emboss Machine. Now this is the regular size machine, and they will be offering a mini size machine, but that won't be available for just a little bit. So keep an eye on the channel and I will introduce you to that when it's available. But starting September 1st, you can purchase the new regular size machine. So today I'd like to walk you through assembling the machine after you receive it, and then just how to use it with your dies and embossing folders, and then the little tips that I've learned while using it for the past month. So when you receive your machine, it's going to look like this, and you're going to have a handle that's not attached, and then you're going to receive the pieces to attach the handle. You will also receive the standard cutting plates, and that includes the platform number 1, platform number 2. You'll receive 2 cutting plates, which are platform number 3, and then this embossing plate, which is platform number 4. And we'll talk about how to use all those in a minute. So the first thing I wanted to show you was how to assemble your machine. And all you need to do is just add the handle into this space here. Let me show you. So on this side of the machine, you've got this opening where you're going to attach the handle. So you're going to remove the pieces from your packaging. You're going to have like this wrench. I think it's called an Allen wrench, but I don't really know. You're going to have a washer and a screw, and then a cap, a rubber cap. So you're going to begin by adding the washer to the screw, just like that. And then you're going to place the handle into this opening. And you'll notice that it's not perfectly round and that there's a flat area. And the handle fits that shape as well. So if it doesn't go on perfectly the first time, that is why. It's because it needs just to rotate a little bit until the shape matches. Now you're going to add the screw with the washer, and then take the wrench and you're going to just tighten that in. So just rotate it to the right, as in it starts to grip and get tighter. So you can see how I'm doing that. Just keep going. And then when it gets tight, you're just going to want to hold that handle and tighten it and make it nice and tight. Now you're going to want to keep this tool in case this loosens over time. Okay? So go ahead and just put that back in the baggie and put this somewhere safe that you'll remember so that you'll have it when your handle loosens up just a little bit. Now you can take your rubber cover, and it's got a little notch in it, and that notch fits just here at the bottom of the handle. There's a notch right there, and so just kind of line those up and just pop it in. Okay, so now you are done assembling your new Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine. So one of the features that this new machine has is that the platforms can fold up to create a nice slim machine so you can store it easily. And then when you're ready to use it, you just open those platforms and now your machine is ready to be used. The handle rotates really smoothly and is a really nice slim design, and so it fits comfortably in your hand. So the bottom of the machine has some rubber feet, and so these grip the table and they keep it from sliding around, and that's a really nice feature as well. So it comes with a really comfortable carrying handle, and so you can pick it up and move it to its storing place or place it on your counter or table to work with. And then it's just really easy to learn how to use this machine, especially with the printed instructions that come on the platforms. So let's go ahead and talk about the platforms and begin using our machine. So on the base platform, which is platform number 1, it gives instructions on how to use the different platforms for either die cutting or embossing. So this one here says place die cutting edge down. So this would be the instructions for die cutting. And this one says insert embossing folders hinge first. So these are the instructions for embossing. And you can also see here, using with thin dies, okay? And using with standard embossing folders. And here it says using with 3D embossing folders. So those are all the products that Stampin' Up! Sells that you can use with the new machine. And so I'm just gonna go ahead and walk you through this. So it kind of gives you your sandwich, and it starts with the base plate number 1, and then you add a number 2 plate. And so this is the number 2, and it also has those same instructions on it for the thin cutting dies. And next it talks about number 3, and it shows an opening there. So you place one number 3 die. So here's my number 3. I'll move it so that you can see our number 3 here. So that goes down. So once that base number 3 goes down, you place your paper and die, and then you place a top number 3 platform. So let me grab some paper and a die. So this is just a piece of cherry cobbler cardstock, and I'm using the 2 wreath dies that come in the Wreaths Builder dies set. And that coordinates with the Arrange a Wreath stamp set. And so I'm just going to go ahead and place them evenly across my paper so you can see how even the machine cuts. So I've got platform 1, 2, and 3. I'm going to go ahead and add my paper and dies. And then I'm going to place the second platform 3, so the clear one, on top. Then I'm going to open my machine. I'm going to rotate it because I am left-handed. So make sure everything's lined up, and then you're just going to slide those plates in. And you'll notice that this machine has a little more give than the past embossing and cutting machine. And so there's a little more space here in case that you have a plate that shifts or your paper is a little bit larger. And you can just go ahead holding the top handle to kind of just give support to your machine and just comfortably roll that through. It's nice and smooth. There is pressure, but it's not really difficult to roll through. And then you can just see how easily those come out and are cut. See, that one was just cut so nice and smoothly that it just pulls right off, and you have this beautiful die, and it even embosses those pretty little leaves in that wreath. I don't know if you can see that pretty embossing there. This one just is a little more intricate, so I'm just going to have to pull it out just a little bit from the paper, but it's been cut nice and cleanly. And then just kind of remove that centerpiece. And you can just see how quickly and easy using a machine like this can cut a beautiful and intricate die. Okay, so it does a great job cutting. You also notice that the even pressure all across the whole machine. So using my old machine, I was noticing that the pressure wasn't even, and I'd have to either add a shim or run it through my machine multiple times to get a nice clean cut. And so getting a new machine like the new Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine is going to give you a better quality cut each time because it has nice even pressure. So now we're going to talk about how to emboss with Stampin' Up! Embossing folders. And Stampin' Up! Offers 2 different types of embossing folders. There are regular folders, and I've got an example of those here with the greenery folders. And this is a combo pack. You get 2 half-size folders when you purchase this product. And so these are the regular ones. And then Stampin' Up! Also offers a 3-dimensional folder. And this one is the Tasteful Textiles 3D embossing folder. And the difference between the two is that the embossing folder gives you multiple levels of embossing. And so this one has some deep ones and some medium, and I can show you that a little bit more. But this one just offers a 1 level of embossing, okay? So that's the difference between regular and 3-dimensional. And so let's go ahead and start with the standard embossing folder. So you look at your sandwich and you've got your platform number 1, and then it looks like you just add the 2 clear platform number 3. So you're gonna go ahead and place that on top of platform 1, then take an embossing folder. Let's go ahead and use this one that has a really fun pattern to it. So normally I would cut my paper down to fit this embossing folder, but I'm just going to go ahead and leave it just hanging out, and that's going to show you the difference between using just regular cardstock and then having an embossed cardstock. So that goes down next, and then I'm going to place the top clear plate on top of that. And then it did say here, when inserting embossing folders, you do the hinge first. And so that's the hinge sitting right there. So I'm going to go ahead and insert that first. Okay, so I'll talk quickly about the hinge. So that's just this top part that holds the 2 pieces together. Then you just go ahead and roll that through. Nice and smooth. And then you can get that beautiful embossed paper. And then here's the other side. And you can just see the difference that adds to your cardstock. So this is just your regular standard embossing folder, and it just gives you that 1 level of embossing. Okay, so then let's go ahead and do a 3D embossing folder. So you're just going to place your cardstock inside and then fold that right over. So let's go ahead and look at which platforms we need to use with the embossing folders. So it looks like we have a platform 1. So we have that one. And then we have our folder with our paper, and then platform number 4. So we just add this right on top, and then add number 4. And go ahead and roll that through your embossing machine. Again, nice and smooth pressure there. Okay, so you'll notice here that this is a much more subtle texture. So Stampin' Up! In the past has sold a bunch of different embossing folders. And if by chance you have an older style one, such as this Tin Tile 3D embossing folder, which is still a current product, but I think they manufacture it differently. So I just have the old product, and it hasn't been manufactured for this particular machine. So I want to still use this product. So I'm going to need to adjust what it tells me here on the platform. So this is a 3D folder, and so it would normally tell me to use a number 1 and then a number 4. But when I do that, it is too tight to roll through. So let me just show you. So I'm beginning to roll it, and it just gets so tight, and I don't want to break my folder or my machine. So if it feels too tight, then just stop and reevaluate how you're doing your sandwich. So for this one, I'm going to show you how to use some of your older folders with the new machine. So you're just going to have to play with it. So you're given 3 different thicknesses of platforms, and so you can just start with the skinnier one. So place that right onto number 1 and into your machine, and then start with platform number 2. And you know, you can start rolling that through, and I'm noticing there's no pressure applied. So it's not going to be number 2. And then I'm going to go ahead and then try number 3 by itself. And if this didn't work, I could layer number 3 with number 2, or even try adding just a piece of paper as a shim, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But so this number 3 actually works perfectly for the thickness of this older folder. And so as I'm rolling it through, I'm getting a nice even pressure, and it's not too tight that I'm worried about breaking anything. And you'll notice that that just provides a really pretty embossed look. And so again, this is the tin tile. And if you were to purchase this now, it would be manufactured for this machine. And so you wouldn't have to worry about coming up with your own sandwich in a way. But that's just a really pretty embossing folder, and it shows a better detail on what a 3D embossing folder's purpose is. And so you can see that the embossing is coming in at all different layers and levels. So some we have just one layer, and you can see here there's kind of a 2-layer embossing happening here in this corner. And it's just such a pretty look to add to your cards or projects. So just quickly to run through what we've just talked about, you're going to want to look at your platforms to tell you how to use your product, such as dies or embossing folders, and which platforms to add to give you the pressure you need to use those products the right way. Okay, so let's go ahead and talk really quickly about some tips. So the first tip I want to give you is about sliding feet. So you'll notice that as I was using this, I didn't have any sliding issues. And the reason for that is because the bottom, again, have these really nice rubber feet that are nice and big, but sometimes they'll pick up your dust from your table or just from, cutting. And so if that happens, your machine's going to start to slide around. So my tip number 1 is if you notice some sliding, then you're going to want to clean these rubber feet. And I always just have my wet chamois around to clean my stamps. And so I just pick it up really quick and just give each foot a little wipe to just kind of pick up that dust and make sure it's nice and clean so that it will hold to my table. Okay, so my tip number 2 is that sometimes, and it has nothing to do with your machine, but sometimes your dies will not release the paper very well, and you can get some tearing. And this happens to me especially with my stitched rectangle dies. And I've used them a lot, and so maybe it's just my overuse of the dies. But I did come up with a little tip that will help release that paper. So I had some of this laundry soap. So this is just called Zote. It's a laundry soap, and I had it laying around my house. And one day I was cutting a bunch of these for a class, and they kept tearing, and this idea just came to me. And so what I like to do is I'm just going to hold this soap is just flat on one side. So I'm just going to take my die and I'm just rubbing it on that soap, just in those creases. And what it's done is it's added a thin layer, kind of something smooth, so that it kind of releases nice and easily from the paper. And then I just kind of tap or flick off any extra soap. And then when I place it on my paper, I'm just going to go ahead and do that sandwich like I normally would. So I got my platform 1, platform 2, platform 3, then my paper and die, and then my top platform 3. Okay, go ahead and open up your machine and run it through. Okay. All right, so you'll notice that this side just comes off really easily. It's just so nice to have it pop off nice and clean, and you don't see much of that residue. And if you do, you can just kind of rub it off. But that's just a fun little tip that I have learned when my paper is just having a really hard time coming out of the die. And then tip number 3. So I always will cut on one platform and keep my other platform free of cutting. And the reason I do this is so that I can, there's 2 reasons. One is so that I can see through my top platform much easier than I can see through one that I've cut through. And you can see that you can't really see through it. And so this is just going to help me make sure my dies don't move on me and that I'm getting a nice clean cut each time. But the second reason is because I don't want the impressions from my cutting pad to be on top of my cardstock. And so what happens when you're running it through is you're adding pressure, right? And so there's a texture here from the cutting, and I don't want that texture to transfer to my cardstock on the top. And so that's why this always is on the bottom. Okay, so then for my tip number 4, we're going to talk about how the plates will sometimes warp. So the past tip, we learned that we need to keep our top plate, the top plate, and our cutting plate, the bottom plate. And this is going to keep this top plate from warping. Now the bottom plate is the one that I have the problem warping with the most. And the tip that I've learned is that if you place it on your sandwich and there's some give, and you can see here that that's, there's kind of like a gap there. And when I press on it, there's give to it. So then if there's give, we need to flip it. And so now when I press in the center, there's no give. And it kind of is backwards to the way that we normally would think about warping. And you can see that it looks like this is going to make it warp even more. But this tip has really changed the way that I have used my plates, and it really keeps them nice and flat. So remember that if you press in the center and there's like a bubble or it gives and you can push on it, then you need to flip it to where it is nice and flat. Okay, and then last, we talked a little bit about shims. And sometimes you need a shim, like we mentioned, if you have an embossing folder that maybe wasn't made for your machine. It might be from a different company, might be older. And so you're gonna just need to add a shim. So it's just really another piece of cardstock or chipboard that's going to give the needed pressure so that you're going to get the right amount of pressure for that product. And so what I do is I just have a range of thicknesses. So this is just a chipboard that came from probably a paper pumpkin kit. Chipboard is added to the kit to keep the products from moving and bending. And so I just took one of those, and you can see that I've used it a couple times. And I just will add that if I'm needing that extra pressure. This is just a piece of cardstock actually, so it's not very thick at all, but I just needed a little more pressure, especially with my older machine where it wasn't giving me an even cut all the way across the roller. You could use thicker cardstock. You could put 2 pieces of regular cardstock together, but those are just shims, and there really is, they're just kind of things you can find around your craft room to add the even pressure you need. And because each machine is just, always slightly different, you may or may not need that extra pressure while using it. Well, I hope you have enjoyed my video where we got to know the new Stampin' Cut and Embossing Machine. And I am just really, really excited. This product is now available to customers. I've had it for a month, and I have really, really enjoyed using it, and just the smoothness and the precision that it offers my die cuts and embossing folders and my projects. And I hope you will think about getting one if you're in need of one. If you have any questions, you can always email me at chelsey@creativechelsey.com, and I'd be happy to answer any questions about this new product. And if you're interested in purchasing one, all the information that you need to get to my online store and the product code number is in the description box below. Thank you so much for watching. Have a creative day. Bye.